Today's theme is simple: arrogance versus instinct. 13, well, 15. Humans who looked at a creature with claws, fangs, hooves, or 3 tons of bad attitude and thought, yeah, I've got this. Spoiler, they did not have this. Let's get into it. Number 1, the tiger that held a grudge. Primary, Russia, 1997. Here is a sentence you never want to be true about your day. A tiger is mad at you specifically, not tigers in general, not the wilderness. One tiger, with your name on its to-do list. That was the reality for Vladimir Markov, a poacher in the frozen forests of far eastern Russia in the winter of 1997. Markov made a decision so spectacularly unwise that it reads like the setup to a folk tale. He came across an Amur tiger, the largest cat on the planet, an animal that can weigh as much as 3 grown men, shot it, wounded it, and then, because apparently the wounding wasn't bold enough, he stole part of the kill the tiger had been eating. He took a hungry, injured apex predator's lunch, and then he went home, presumably feeling clever. The tiger did not feel clever. The tiger felt something far more unsettling: patience. It followed Markov's scent back toward his cabin, and then it did the thing that still gives biologists chills. It waited. For somewhere between 12 and 48 hours, this animal staked out the cabin like a detective on a stakeout. It shredded everything Markov owned that carried his smell, his mattress, his belongings, methodically, as if making a point. Then it lay down by the door, and it waited some more. When Markov finally came home, the tiger collected on the debt, in full. The anti-poaching investigators who reconstructed the scene concluded this wasn't random hunger. This was deliberate. This was personal. The whole grim saga became the basis of John Vailant's book, The Tiger. And here's your free survival tip. If you ever find yourself in a forest thinking about taking food away from a wounded tiger, I want you to instead take a long, calm look at your life and ask how you got here. The tiger already knows where you live. It checked. Number 2, the selfie in the lion's den. Tirupati, India, 2024. Let me ask you something. What is the most expensive photograph you've ever taken? Everything. Gujjar was a 34-year-old man who traveled all the way from Rajasthan to the Sri Venkateswara Zoological Park in Tirupati. He bought a ticket, a single ticket, a solo visitor, and he walked into that zoo with a plan that should have ended at the gift shop. Instead, it ended in the one place on earth you do not want to be, the wrong side of the lion fence. Now, the zoo did everything right. There was a wall. There was a restricted zone meant only for caretakers and veterinarians. There was a watcher who spotted Gujjar from 200 meters away and sounded the alarm. 200 meters. An alarm. A wall. Every safeguard in the building lined up to say, "Sir, sir, please, do not." And Gujjar looked at all of it and decided that the rules, the wall, the alarm, the entire concept of lions were suggestions meant for less ambitious men. He scaled the wall and lowered himself toward the big cats to get his shot. The lion accepted the visitor immediately. It pounced and took him by the neck, and by the time staff and police reached the enclosure, the only thing left to do was recover him. The selfie was never posted. Nobody ever even saw it, and this is the part that should sit with you. The lion did nothing wrong. The lion was a lion, in lion territory, behaving in the only way a lion knows. Gujjar is the one who climbed a wall, ignored an alarm, and walked into a predator's home uninvited because he believed a photograph was worth more than the fence between him and 400 pounds of muscle. No picture has ever been worth scaling a wall the zoo specifically built to keep you alive. Number 3, the 10th bite. Middlesboro, Kentucky, USA, 2014. Some people test their faith with prayer. Jamie Coots tested his with rattlesnakes. And for a remarkably long time, the rattlesnakes let him win. Coots was the pastor of a small Pentecostal church in Kentucky and a star of a National Geographic reality series called Snake Salvation. His brand of worship involved handling live venomous serpents during services, picking them up, holding them aloft, trusting that the Lord would stay the fangs. And here's the genuinely wild part. It worked. Over 22 years, Coots was bitten 9 separate times. 9. And every single time he refused medical treatment, and every single time he recovered. To him, this was not luck. This was proof. 9 clean escapes felt like a signed, notarized guarantee from the heavens. But venom doesn't keep score the way humans do. Each bite was its own independent roll of the dice. And a rattlesnake does not care about your winning streak, your sincerity, or your television ratings. In February of 2014, during a weekend service, the dice came up snake eyes. A rattler caught him on the right hand. The 10th bite. True to a lifetime of conviction, Coots verbally refused treatment right there in the church. He lost consciousness. His family, honoring his beliefs, declined the antivenom that was sitting within reach. And, not long after, at home, Jamie Coots tapped out, defeated by the exact creature he had spent 2 decades insisting could not defeat him. Here's the uncomfortable math. 9 survivals didn't lower his risk. They just delayed the bill. Every time he picked up that snake, the odds reset to 0. Fresh and merciless. Faith is a beautiful thing, but a rattlesnake is not an audience you can win over, and it has never once been impressed by a man's track record. Number 4. Too close to the lens. Homer, Alaska, USA, 2024. You'd think the people most likely to be done in by a wild animal would be the tourists, the clueless, the careless, the ones who think a moose is just a horse that lost a bet. But sometimes it's the expert. Sometimes it's the person who knew better than anyone. And that knowledge is exactly what undid them. Dale Chorman was a 70-year-old wildlife photographer and naturalist in Alaska. This was not a man who wandered into the woods by accident. He had spent decades around Alaskan wildlife. He understood moose. He knew in his bones that there is no animal on the continent more dangerous than a cow moose who has just given birth. A new moose mother is 1,000 pounds of pure protective fury looking for a reason. And in May of 2024, Dale Chorman went out to photograph one. Fresh calf. New mother. The single most defensive configuration a moose can possibly be in. And he crept closer anyway, chasing the perfect frame because 30 years of experience had quietly whispered the most dangerous sentence in the wild. I know what I'm doing. The moose charged. It struck him, kicked him to the ground, and that was that. His friend said gently that he died doing what he loved most. And maybe that's true. But there's a lesson buried in here that's sharper than the usual. Tourist did a dumb thing. Expertise can become its own kind of arrogance. The more you know, the easier it is to believe you're the exception to the rule you spend your whole life teaching other people. The moose had not read his resume. The moose saw a threat near her baby, and she did the math in half a second. Number 5. The Home Venom Collection. United States, 2004. Quick question. How many loaded living weapons do you keep in your house? For most of us, the answer is 0. For Alexandria Hall, the answer was over a dozen, and several of them can end me through a closed eyelid. Hall shared her home with more than a dozen venomous snakes and lizards, the majority of them illegally acquired. Now, to a certain kind of enthusiast, this is a flex. A private collection of rare, deadly reptiles says, I have nerve, I have skill, I am not like other people. And to be fair, it does take skill. The problem with a hobby built entirely on skill and nerve is that skill and nerve only have to lapse one single time, and your roommates are patient, cold-blooded, and armed. One of her snakes was an urutu, a South American pit viper with a hemotoxic bite, the kind of venom that doesn't politely stop your heart, but instead quietly takes apart your body's ability to clot. It got her. And here's the cruel detail. She didn't go quickly. She died 2 days later from a bleed in the brain, the venom having spent 48 hours dismantling her from the inside while everyone hoped she'd pull through. This is the quiet danger of the I can handle it lifestyle. A wall of caged vipers works flawlessly, right up until the one afternoon it doesn't. And there are no points for the 1,000 times nothing went wrong. The snakes weren't malicious. They were just deadly and bored and waiting the way deadly things do. Number 6, ringing the dinner bell. Rottnest Island, Western Australia. Here's a fun bit of ocean physics most people never think about. To a great white shark, a struggling, bleeding fish is not a snack. It's an announcement, a broadcast, a flare shot into the water that says, "Dinner is served, come and get it," from miles away. So now picture a sport built entirely around producing that exact signal, on purpose, with your own body floating right next to it. That sport is spearfishing, and a 38-year-old diver was doing it off Rottnest Island, near Perth, on a reef well offshore. Speared fish thrashing on the line, blood spreading into the current, panic vibrations radiating outward in every direction, like ripples in a pond. Everything about the scene was, from a shark's perspective, a beautifully rung dinner bell. And the diver was standing inside the dish. A great white estimated at 13 to 16 feet long answered the invitation. It struck without warning and inflicted injuries that he could not survive. The reef went quiet. Now, I want to be fair here, because this one is a softer kind of arrogance than taunting a lion. Spearfishers know the risk. They understand the food chain better than almost anyone. But there's a quiet assumption baked into doing it anyway. The belief that this time, on this reef, in this exact spot, the ocean's most efficient predator simply wouldn't show up to the buffet you personally catered. The shark always RSVPs eventually. Number 7, stalked by his own target. South Africa, 2025. Professional hunters in Africa have nicknames for the Cape buffalo. They call it the Black Death. They call it the Widowmaker. These are not affectionate nicknames. You do not earn names like that by being a gentle, misunderstood herbivore. You earn them by being an intelligent, vengeful, 1,500-pound animal that has a documented habit of circling back to ambush the very people hunting it. Asher Watkins, a Texas big game hunter, went to South Africa to add one to his collection. He was tracking a Cape buffalo, rifle in hand, doing the thing he had presumably paid a great deal of money to do, stalking the animal for the kill. And somewhere in that stalk, the buffalo flipped the entire script. The hunter became the hunted. The buffalo turned, charged, and gored him, and Watkins did not walk away from the encounter. There is a particular flavor of arrogance that lives inside the big game hunt. It's the assumption that the equation is already solved, that the rifle, the professional guide, the airfare, and the trophy fee have pre-purchased the outcome, and the animal is just a formality waiting to be collected. The Cape buffalo has been violently disagreeing with that assumption for over a century. It has killed more hunters across Africa than almost anything else on 4 legs, precisely because it refuses to play the role of the easy trophy. And here's the grim irony to chew on. Watkins crossed an ocean to mount this animal on a wall. The animal declined the appointment and rescheduled. Everyone made smart enough to hunt you back. Maybe the trophy was never as guaranteed as the brochure made it sound. Number 8, devoured by her own tiger. Minnesota, USA, 2006. There's a phrase people love to use about exotic pets. Oh, he's a big softie, he'd never hurt me. And there is no sentence in the English language more reliably followed by an ambulance. Cynthia Gamble ran a for-profit operation in Minnesota that bred and sold tigers and other exotic cats. So this wasn't a naive first-timer who bought a cub off the internet. This was a professional, someone who had built an entire business on the premise that she understood and controlled these animals. But by 2006, rumors were swirling that her cats weren't being fed properly, that they were being kept near starvation. And then one of them, a male tiger named Tango, settled the matter. When the authorities examined Tango afterward, they found he was more than 100 pounds underweight. 100 pounds. He mauled Gamble and partially ate her. And he was so aggressive in the aftermath that he had to be put down. Let's be clear about the arithmetic, because it's brutal in its simplicity. A tiger is a 400-pound predator engineered by evolution to hunt and kill large prey. The only thing standing between you and that programming is a full belly and a fence. And gamble, if the reports are accurate, removed the full belly. Owning a tiger does not domesticate it. It does not make it grateful. It simply means there is now a starving apex predator living within arm's reach of you, running the exact calculation it was born to run. If you insist on keeping a tiger at the absolute bare minimum, do not also make it hungry. You are not the exception to the food chain. You're just the closest item on the menu. Number 9. Ignoring the sign. Tampico, Mexico, 2020. This is the shortest lesson on the entire list, and somehow the one humanity refuses to learn. There was a sign. The sign said don't. He did. At Laguna del Carpintero, a lagoon in the Mexican city of Tampico, the local authorities had posted a warning that could not possibly have been clearer. Do not swim here because there are crocodiles. Not swim at your own risk. Not caution wet floor. Crocodiles. The sign named the specific prehistoric monster that would like to eat you and pointed directly at the water where it lived. In October of 2020, a man believed to be in his late 50s or 60s read that sign, performed the most fatal mental gymnastics known to our species. That's for other people. And got in the water anyway. In front of onlookers, a crocodile did what crocodiles have been doing with flawless precision for over 200 million years. It dragged him under. He did not come back up. I want to dwell on the timescale here, because it's genuinely humbling. Crocodiles were ambushing prey at the water's edge, before there were birds, before there were flowers. They watched the dinosaurs come and go and didn't bother evolving much, because the design was already perfect. And the single safeguard standing between this man and 200 million years of refined murder was a laminated sign. The universe's last polite, almost pleading attempt to keep him out of the obituary. And let's be honest about the specific arrogance on display, because it's the most common one there is. He didn't misjudge the danger. The sign told him the danger by name. He simply believed that warnings are written for other people. The clumsy ones, the unlucky ones, the ones who aren't him. That single thought, that's for other people, has ended more lives than almost any predator on this list. Number 10. Inside the elephant trailer. Circus tour. Familiarity is a beautiful thing with your family, your friends, your dog. It is a deadly thing with 3 Asian elephants in a metal box. Pierre Spenno was a 40-year-old circus animal trainer, and he was doing a routine part of the job, loading 3 Asian elephants into a transport trailer. Each of these animals weighed more than 7,000 pounds. To put that in perspective, that's roughly 2 pickup trucks per elephant, except the trucks have opinions, moods, and the ability to move faster than you. And Spenley was inside the trailer with all 3 of them. Then, a single piece of equipment failed. A security bar he was holding on to gave way, and in an instant he went from in control to on the ground among 12 tons of nervous animal. The elephant stomped him before he could get clear. Here's the trap that circus work quietly sets for the people in it. Spend years beside an animal, and you start to mistake its trained tolerance for genuine affection. You start to read its patience as a relationship. But an elephant in a trailer is not feeling patient. It is performing patience on training and habit in a stressful, cramped space. There is no love in the equation, only conditioning, and conditioning is held together by exactly the kind of latch that just snapped in his hands. When you're sealed inside a confined space with multiple, multi-ton wild animals, your entire survival is resting on the assumption that nothing breaks. And things break. Bars give way. The elephants do the rest. Number 11. The One Who Lived. Warsaw, Poland, 2015, bonus survivor. All right, deep breath. After 10 consecutive losses for Team Human, the universe is going to throw us a single baffling miracle. This is the asterisk on the entire list. The one contestant who did everything required to join it and somehow walked away. And the only reason he survived is that the animal he attacked had better manners than he did. Picture the Warsaw Zoo, 2015. A drunk man decides, for reasons that died with his sobriety, to climb into the brown bear enclosure. So far, this is a familiar tragedy. But here's where it takes a hard left turn into the absurd. He didn't fall in, he didn't stumble in for a selfie, he got in there and tried to drown the bear. He picked a fight with a bear and specifically tried to hold it underwater. The bear's name was Sabina, and Sabina, a former circus animal who was used to humans, was so utterly baffled by the concept of a person attacking her that she basically didn't know what to do with it. She defended herself, nipped at him, and then, and this is the best part, retreated to sit in the water, growling nervously to herself, clearly wondering what on earth she had done to deserve this, until her keepers showed up to sort out the situation. The man escaped with some cuts and his entire life. Sabina, I'm pleased to report, was fine, if emotionally confused. He is living proof that sometimes the gene pool's lifeguard sprints across the deck and blows the whistle at the very last second. He is also proof that you should never, ever pick a fight with a bear. He won by accident. Do not attempt to replicate his results. Number 12. The Backyard Moose. Red Lodge, Montana, USA. Recent. Let's talk about the moose, because the moose is running a brilliant scam, and it's getting people hurt. The moose looks ridiculous. It looks like the animal kingdom's first rough draft. Gangly legs, a droopy nose, a body assembled from leftover parts. It does not register on a gut level as dangerous. And that misread is exactly how it operates. Brian Edwards, 42, was staying at a family cabin near Red Lodge, Montana. He stepped outside with a camera around his neck and got close to a moose. Likely, investigators believe, to take a photo. Because that's the thing the moose's silly appearance does to people. A man who would never in a million years stroll up to a grizzly will happily walk right up to a moose, because his brain has filed it under big, goofy deer instead of 1,000-pound territorial tank. The moose attacked, and it turns out those gangly legs are fast, far faster than a man can scramble. A moose can hit 35 miles an hour, which means in the time it takes you to think, wait, is it charging? It has already arrived and answered the question for you. Edwards died roughly 50 yards from the cabin. 50 yards. The length of a swimming pool and a bit. That's all the distance the moose needed, and it closed it in seconds while he was still processing that the goofy deer had a temper. And remember the moose's other weapon, the one nobody respects. Those hooves. A defensive moose doesn't bite. It rears up and stomps down with enough force to crack bone. Again and again. With the cold efficiency of a machine that has no reason to stop. Danger does not always look like teeth and a roar. Sometimes it looks awkward and harmless and perfect for a photo. The moose is counting on you to underestimate it. Don't give it the satisfaction. Give it 50 yards, and then add 50 more. Number 13. The world's most dangerous bird, Alachua, Florida, USA. 2019, I need you to throw out everything your brain thinks it knows about the word bird. Forget the sparrow. Forget the pigeon. Today's bird stands 6 feet tall, weighs over 100 pounds, cannot fly, and carries on each foot a dagger-like inner claw specifically capable of opening a human being like an envelope. It is called the cassowary, and it is routinely named the most dangerous bird on the planet. And a man in Florida kept them in his yard as pets. Marvin Hajos was 75 years old, and he bred cassowaries on his property near Gainesville. Here's a detail that tells you everything about how this was allowed to happen. In Florida, you needed no permit to own one. None. You could legally keep the world's most lethal bird next to your tomatoes, and the state had no notes. One morning, Hajos tripped and fell near one of his birds. That's all it took. The cassowary pounced. The autopsy later documented more than a dozen lacerations across his face, neck, back, abdomen, thighs, legs, and arm, including a severed brachial artery, the major vessel of the upper arm. The bird did precisely what its claws were built over millions of years to do. And here's the detail that makes the cassowary a perfect fit for this list. It is not even a predator. It doesn't want to eat you. It mostly wants fruit and to be left alone. The danger isn't hunger. It's that this is a powerful, easily startled, deeply territorial animal carrying lethal weaponry on its feet. And it will use that weaponry the instant it feels cornered. Keeping one as a pet means betting your life on never spooking it. Breeding the deadliest bird on earth in your backyard is a bet. A bet that you will never, not even once, stumble at the wrong moment near it. And every human being stumbles. Eventually. Hey Joe's stumbled. After this happened, Florida changed exactly 0 rules. So legally, the dinosaur-clawed murder bird is still welcome in the Sunshine State. Number 14. Slain by his own rooster Lothuner. Telangana, India. 2021 of every entry on this list. This one has the cleanest, darkest poetry. A man armed an animal to kill for his entertainment and became the very first thing it killed. You could not write irony this tidy. In the village of Lothunor, in the Indian state of Telangana, illegal cockfighting is a thriving pastime. The roosters aren't sent in barefooted either. Handlers strap 3-inch blades, actual knives to the bird's legs, turning a barnyard animal into a feathered switchblade for the amusement of gambling crowds. Thangala Satish, 45, was prepping his gamecock for exactly this, carefully tying the blade into position. And the rooster, a terrified animal who never asked to be turned into a weapon, panicked. It thrashed. And the knife that Satish had personally attached, the knife meant to slash some other man's bird, slashed Satish instead, catching him in the groin. He bled out on the way to the hospital. Sit with the sequence of events for a second. Satish supplied the cruelty. He supplied the weapon. He supplied the entire scenario in which a frightened creature was armed and provoked. And then, in the final twist, he supplied the victim too. The rooster had no plan, no malice, no vendetta. It was just a scared animal with a blade its owner tied on, doing the one thing a cornered creature does. And it's worth noting, this is not even a freak one-off. Blade-related cockfighting injuries to handlers are common enough in the region that hospitals know the pattern on sight. Men carried in with deep slashes from their own birds. Satish just drew the worst possible version of a wound the sport hands out on a regular basis. Number 15. Too close to the Hippo Lower Zambezi National Park, Zambia, 2024. For our final case, let's correct one of the deadliest misunderstandings in the entire animal kingdom. When you picture Africa's biggest killer, you probably think lion, maybe crocodile. You are picturing the wrong animal. The deadliest large land animal in Africa is the one that looks like a friendly, chubby cartoon, the hippopotamus. It kills more people than lions, leopards, and buffalo. And it does it while looking absolutely adorable. That adorable exterior is exactly the trap. Lisa Manders, an American tourist, was on a wildlife trip along a river in Zambia's Lower Zambezi National Park in June of 2024. She got close to a hippo near the water's edge. Close enough for the kind of photo that makes the folks back home jealous. The hippo looked like a big, sleepy, harmless lump. The hippo was none of those things. It charged out of the water, and hippos are shockingly, terrifyingly fast on land for something that size. And it killed her, crushing her in jaws that can bite a canoe in half. Beneath that round, comical body is a 3-ton territorial animal with the bite force of a heavy machine and absolutely no sense of humor about its personal space. The animal that gets you is rarely the one that looks scary. It's the one you underestimate. The goofy-looking moose, the chubby hippo, the big softy tiger. Nature does not advertise its danger for your convenience. It lets you walk right up, camera in hand, certain you've got this. And then it reminds you, one final time, who has actually been in charge all along. If you made it to the end, You officially respect the animal kingdom more than 14 of the people in this video did. That's growth. I'm sure you'll be interested in this massive compilation of the best moments, the link to which you can see right now. Hit subscribe if you want to keep watching nature settle the score. Smash that like button if you're now rethinking that petting zoo trip. Ring the notification bell because the animals are undefeated and I've already got the next batch loaded. And tell me in the comments which of these made you yell, "Why would you do that?" the loudest. I read every single one. Until next time, stay smart, stay subscribed, and remember, the gene pool has lifeguards now, and they are tired.